Bye week is super over. A lot of you have tons of questions about where Michigan goes from here, so we're taking all of them right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. We are back with the Michigan mailbag. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you for making us your first listen, and thank you to all of you who are everydayers. Check out the show every single day. We're going leaders and best with some additions. Listen, some of y'all slacking. Granted, I called for questions at like 11:30. I forgot. I woke up at like 8:30 and then just forgot to post. Then we're going Victor's Valiant, and then we're going Blue Crew as usual. Let's get right into it. We're doing all but one because one was just a joke and I just deleted it. Like, listen, we don't have time for the jokes. We don't. I mean, aside from the ones I make. Some of your jokes we make in. This one we didn't. James Crudup at James Crudup 6. How would you grade Chip Lindsey's season so far as OC and QB coach? I don't know if you have listened to Devin Gardner and Jake Butt's show. They said the offensive line play was very good given the injuries this year. Has the fan base been overly critical on Grant Newsome? Okay, so I have multiple things here. Number one, I'd give Chip Lindsey a solid B. Let me change it a little bit. B plus offensive coordinator, C plus quarterbacks coach. I don't know that Bryce is being properly developed as a quarterback, and that's just my opinion based off of kind of just different people I've spoken to, not just one, multiple people that feel like he could use a little bit more of some guidance from the quarterback position. As far as the play calling, I think the play calling has been mostly very good. It gets into ruts, but like you can't find a single team in college football that doesn't. But generally, I think that the offensive coordinating has been very, very good. I want to look up something here real quick while I'm thinking of it. So last year, Michigan was dead last in passing offense. We're going to talk just passing offense for a moment. In yards per attempt. Dead last year. Let me just double check to verify. Yep, 133rd, 5.4 yards per attempt. This year, Michigan, for all of the hand wringing and everything, is, drum roll, 60th. So above the middle of the pack. That's Herculean to some degree. 7.5 yards per attempt. Now, are they going nuts here in the passing game? No. But as far as total offense is concerned, went too far on the back button. Last year, in terms of yards per play, Michigan was 127th. Right now, Michigan is 26th. 26th in total yards per play offensively. In terms of yards per game, last year Michigan was, because here's the thing, results are what matters. 129th. This year Michigan offensively is 51st. Again, Herculean. I had said that Michigan was going to be right in the thick of it if all of those numbers came to fruition. And they are in the thick of it. Maybe it's not looking as good as we had hoped. As far as the offensive line is concerned, I'm not necessarily feeling like it's been like very good, as kind of said here. I think it's been intermittent. I think in the run game, it's been great. In the pass game, it's been intermittent, and the protections are what's caused Bryce to have happy feet the last couple of games. I think it has the opportunity to be very good, and it could start this week. But I do think that Grant Newsome has ended up doing a good job and has worked his way off of my own personal hot seat list, put it that way. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. Do you feel like over the years you've gotten a better understanding of the X's and O's? Yes, obviously. The more you do these types of things, I wouldn't call myself like I think if a lot of you tried to play me in like EA college football 26 or something like that. I wouldn't be like some kind of crazy, because I'm not a play caller or anything like that. I can more so evaluate. I'm not necessarily someone who could put things together, but generally I can evaluate. I think that's obviously gotten better over the years, but at the same time, I think it could be better than it is right now too. At the same time, what do you want to see on the first offensive drive for Michigan versus Northwestern? Just consistency, ability to drive the field. Doesn't have to look like anything like, oh wow, they just cut through like a hot knife through butter. It just has to be consistent, and I'd like to see them end with points, because the first drives have not been kind to Michigan generally. Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. If we go 9-3 with losing to Ohio State and no playoffs, make or break next year, make or break for Sherrone Moore. I'd say yeah. I would say that's the case, because you want to get the most out of what you have, and that would kind of not be fair, right? If next year it was kind of the same a little bit, and then a new coach inherits, say they don't get a ton of outgoing transfers, a new coach inherits all the talent that they'll have, would kind of be unfair in some ways, kind of like the Brady Hoke 2011 year. But I'd say yeah. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily make or break. I won't go that far. Let me just put it that way. But because I think you look at it, if you're Ward Manuel, you're looking at you're not looking at it in the way the fan does. And I know this from having conversations with Ward. Like, fans look at it and say, I want wins, and I want them now. And if I don't get my wins now, then I'm going to revolt. And Sherrone or Jim Harbaugh or Brady Hoke or Rich Rod, whoever it is, that's not how Ward's looking at it. He's looking at the roster and saying, like, yeah, when you got that many injuries, when you've got that many young players playing, like, it kind of changes the calculus a little bit, and you just want to see improvement and things of that nature. So I would say that's the case. Drop down the order because he hasn't asked a question, because he's actually busy working in the Michigan media now. But a former Leaders and Best member, Trent Knoop, asked 10 reasons the PS5 is better than the Xbox. Thanks. That's in response to me tagging him in a tweet from IGN that said that the PS5 has sold more than all the Xboxes combined in history. And I'm obviously team PS5. I don't know if I can give 10 necessarily. Let's see. It should be easy, but here we go. Okay. God of War. Let's go. Let's be fair and say God of War Ragnarok. Ghost, I'll count as one. Ghost of Yotai, which I haven't played yet, and Ghost of Tsushima. Death Stranding, including the new one. Spider-Man, including Miles Morales and the new one, which I haven't finished playing that one either. I know I'm missing some. It's just, I'm just going to list a bunch of PS5 exclusives essentially, and I could continue doing that, but my mind isn't working that great here. But the PS5 exclusives they're just better. There's only, I think, like one game on Xbox that I've ever looked up that I've been like, oh man, that's an Xbox exclusive that I've ever wanted. And otherwise everything else is kind of cross-platform, right? Like the Star Wars games, Red Dead Redemption 2, everything else is cross-platform, but there's otherwise, like, you can only play certain games that I think are the best in gaming. I'm not much of a gamer. I haven't touched my PS5 in 3-4 months, but yeah, that's it. And I included this next one here as an honorary. Recently married Ben Pfizer at Satisfizer. Again, congratulations, and thank you for letting me be a part of your wedding. What's the TLDR on the Big Ten possibly moving forward with the private equity deal without Michigan and USC? I mean, I don't know a lot of specifics. I know I got another question about this as well, but basically, the best that I can kind of muster here is that the Big Ten is trying to get this infusion of money from UC investments, creating Big Ten enterprises, and it would basically help out some of the lesser schools, but all the schools would basically get like $2.4 billion from this, and then they would have a 10% stake, this UC investments, in the media rights for the next 20 years. So that's basically it. And it to me, it seems like a terrible idea. And like some of these things would come with a lot of different things like, hey, now you got to put advertisements in the big house and stuff like that if Michigan went along with it. But essentially, the Big Ten is trying to say, hey, we're going to go through with it without. And can't remember the guy's name. M. Haver, I think, had put out there that Michigan and USC are contemplating the idea of going independent and putting all the rest of their sports in what you call it. Let me just see here. I'm just making sure that this wasn't relative to what I just put out there. It isn't. That basically the other sports would go ACC and football, basketball, be independent or whatever. So that's the best I can do, I think. All right, we've got so much more. And we've got, as much time as the battery allows. It says I got 37 minutes on this battery. So there we go. Canon R5C, not great with battery life. So until I get a V-mount battery, which will probably be next week, we roll with what we got. All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to do so here in just a moment. But before we do, college football is back. And it's been back for obviously a while. I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. So I use Game Time. The app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fee. What you see is what you pay. We're going to go on to Game Time right now. And we're going to look Game Time. There we go. It's already in the auto part here where it figures out what I'm trying to do, and search Michigan football, which it knows to do as well. Actually, okay, it didn't do. I don't want events near Detroit. We want to look in Chicago. Northwestern. You can get in the door for as low as, and this is obviously a big deal. This is Wrigley Field now. You can get in the door at $157 each. That's 6% off from the price. So if you want to go to the game, they've got all kinds of tickets available for you. So I highly recommend using Game Time. You can see exactly where you're going to be sitting. You can see what it's kind of going to look like because it's showing a baseball field. And with the zone deals, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We're definitely in trouble this show because usually I get through the leaders and best in like 7 minutes, and it took 12. So let's get to the Victors Valiant, starting with James Kovalevsky at Coach_Kovo. What does the punter depth chart look like behind Hudson Hollenbeck? Is there a promising young punter already on campus, or do you think Michigan will look to the portal to bring in another punter? I think the latter. They did bring in someone whose name completely escapes me. I think they really thought that Luke Bauer was going to be the guy. He ended up retiring from football. So that's just kind of where they're at. I don't think it's a great situation at punter right now. I think what they've got is what they've got. So right now it's Hudson Hollenbeck, and then I would venture to guess behind him is Marlon Klein, to give you any indication there. Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Happy Tuesday, my brother in Christ. Where will you be Thursday in Chicago? Will any Michigan recruits from the Chicagoland area be at the game? I'm actually now driving instead of flying as of this morning. It's not because of my fear of flying. I just kind of recognized I wanted the control of having a car and changing things up. And I'm going on Friday morning instead of, my flight was on Friday anyway. So I won't be there Thursday as I had hoped, because it's having my grandmother watch Zuri. I wanted to give her where she only had a day and a half of watching her, because I'm hoping she'll watch her for the Maryland game, and I'll be there Thursday through Sunday in DC. As far as the Michigan recruits, I don't know. Who's the second on the depth chart at running back? That would be Jasper Parker at the moment. Do the coaches have any confidence in wide receiver? I mean, I think they have confidence in who they have confidence in, which is the players you've seen. I don't think it's necessarily gone that great, though. It's Morgan. I think they have confidence in him because I think he's doing better in practice than he's doing in games. He says, "Hope to meet you, my bro. Jason Avant will be home." Excuse me. Well, we can DM me. We can try to figure out something for Friday after my dinner or something, or before. David G. Van Reenen at XNeil07. What do you think about Jordan Marshall's arrival? I think he's going to explode on the scene massively. I think that this is kind of where I was talking about in the early season is Justice Haynes had the experience Jordan Marshall didn't, and that's kind of what you saw early. And now that Jordan Marshall has the experience, he's starting to kind of look like a Hassan Haskins type, right? Because it's just, okay, now I know what to do. Now I know what I'm seeing. I know what everything looks like. And I think that that's a certain possibility that he does explode on the scene. But so I think it was expected. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I love Justice Haynes and I hate Jordan Marshall. It was more like, I think Justice is more ready. And I think we ended up seeing that. And Jordan was going to take a little time to get things figured out. Pogie Stogie at Wolverines, Libertadis. What are the top things to look for in the offense coming out of the bye? Consistency, just consistency, right? Not stalling out, ending in points rather than, getting 400, 500 yards of total offense and not finishing in points. It's been a big issue. I'm looking for better pass protection, better feet from Bryce, depth at running back, emergence of clear wide receiver 3. I mean, wide receiver 2 even at this point. And consistent tight end involvement in the pass game. Hashtag go blue, hashtag God bless. I think that all the stuff you're saying is correct, right? But there have been times where the pass protection's fine and Bryce isn't feeling it, or vice versa. And I think that they just, again, consistency. They need to be more consistent in all of these things. I mean, listen, it's not going to, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not a matter of oh man, it's got to go out there and look incredible, but you just got to be able to do a little bit more with what you have. And with that is consistency. Definitely want to see more consistent tight end involvement in the pass game as well. Great Bambino X at Colossus O'Clout X. A November game in Chicago against a gritty Northwestern team isn't a likely recipe for getting our struggling passing game on track. I'm all for smash ball in this one. What's the bare minimum needed to appease some of the more pessimistic fans from a passing perspective? I'd say about 200 yards passing and just a relatively decent stat line. 65-ish% completions. If he goes I don't know if this is statistically that, because I can't do the math in my head that fast. 12 for 18, 13 for 18 for 200 yards, right? Something like that. You have maybe bolstered by one long passing play, like maybe a catch and run or something like that. And I think just being able to see the field better, right? Making better decisions. I think if it just looked even more like it did even against Northwestern, where you didn't have 200, but it was okay, it feels like it's more the receivers here than it is on Bryce, I think would make people feel a little better, because it's okay, well, the receiver part looked better and whatever. I don't know. What is this thing Michigan and USC are opposed of? Help me understand, please. I'm sorry that I moved on. That's William Cawthor. We already covered that anyway. Continuing Greg Bambino. Another one, do you foresee a scenario where Michigan could win out and still miss the CFP? Seems like it could happen. How would the season be viewed if it does? I don't think it would, because I think that win over Ohio State would easily propel Michigan into it. I think it'd be hard to keep them out at that point. And I understand some of the teams that Michigan's beat, maybe not like Nebraska without Dylan Raiola. Oklahoma, they lost to Oklahoma and USC, who are, have some troubling losses for sure. Washington hasn't held up its end of the bargain, but I think beating Ohio State and being a 2-loss team would get Michigan in. I don't foresee a scenario where that would be anything different. 3 losses would be a different story. If they lost to Northwestern and beat Ohio State, that's a different story. I'm not the one at William Cawthor 9. If you get better at football by playing football, explain Semaj, explain O'Leary. People say O'Leary can't get open, but can't they scheme him open? I don't know why we're not seeing O'Leary. With Semaj, he's just got the yips. Yeah, you do get better at football by playing football. I think he's gotten good at recognition of a lot of things, the things that you don't see. The thing is, with a wide receiver, you have to be able to catch the ball first and foremost. He's not doing that, but there's also the blocking, which he's gotten better at. There's also the ability to see what's happening on the field in pre-snap and all that stuff, which he's talking to some people. That's where he's really excelling, but that's maybe not the best reason to have a guy out there at this point. Are we as a fan base not supposed to be upset of how things look? Me personally feels like Michigan should be a top 10 team every year. Well, doesn't really jibe with what Michigan tends to be. And we've done shows on that. We haven't done it in a long time, but pre-2021, trying to like manage the expectations. And for those who are like, yeah, Michigan should be undefeated or one loss, like, well, that's not really been who Michigan's been since forever ago, well before our lifetimes. Everyone listening to this for the most part or watching this. So I'm not saying that you have to be happy with how things look, but wins are what's most important. That's the key thing. Doesn't matter if it's ugly. It's why I kind of mentioned like 2015 MSU. Like that could be what this Michigan team ends up being, is, wins by the skin of their teeth in most of these games. It's a young team. It's going to have some ups and downs, and you see that happening so far this year. But to say like it should be a top 10 team every year, I mean, obviously it was that for 3 straight years, but like historically, that's not really, like in my lifetime, that's not what Michigan's really been. 44 years old. So I think that would be unrealistic. Yeah, you want to be that, but that's not who Michigan has been. Michigan's the type of team essentially where every 3rd or 4th year it will be that. In one other year it will be a top 25, maybe 2 other years, and then there's a down year. That's just who Michigan's been in my lifetime for the most part. K-Lob 711. In 2022, Michigan barely beat a pretty good Illinois team 19-17 in an ugly game overall. Then went on to have an offensive explosion against Ohio State the next week, winning 45-23. If we can somehow get by Northwestern and Maryland, do you see a possibility of that scenario happening again? Hard to predict, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. Ohio State, though, is trying to run more of the Michigan, complementary football type of thing. I mean, more pass than run still in terms of like what it's good at. But I mean, it's certainly possible. I wouldn't say it's probable, but it's possible. Something's talking. Is it Alexa? I think Alexa's talking for some reason in the other room. BW at BW2623. Do you think Justice Haynes will be back for Ohio State? This is not my intel. But believe this is Trevor McHugh over at Maize and Blue Review. Has indicated that signs point to yes. Now, it says, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, it sounds like things are trending well for him in terms of that. But it's hard to say for sure, right? So I know someone replied to you and said no, and you responded to that. But like, listen, like no one knows. And except for, there's some people who are plugged in there. And Trevor is one that I would count as someone who is. Clark at Blue for Life 8. If Sam Pittman is available at the end of the year, would you like to see Michigan pursue him and maybe move Newsome to another position for the time being? I mean, yeah, I'd love that because I love Sam Pittman. But, I mean, would you upset the apple cart to do that? I don't know. But yeah, I'd love that. But that's just because I love Sam Pittman. That's not anything to do with Grant and what he has done over the course of the year. But I just love Sam Pittman. So I would say yes, just because I would love to see him here. Jacob Shavaria at Shavaria. What's the logic of Notre Dame in the top 10 and not Michigan? They've beaten some better teams, I believe. Just thinking offhand, but I can't recall. But yeah, I think they were in the national championship game. They've looked a lot better since they lost their first 2 games. I think that's the big part of it. They lost to a Texas A&M that's ranked 3rd. That's a big part of it too. Should Biff or Sherrone take over the offensive play calling? No, I think the play calling's fine from Chip. I don't think it's the play calling that's the problem. Does Wink actually listen to the podcast? He's told me he has. So there you go. If Michigan makes the Final Four in basketball, would you actually go to the game? Depends on when that is. Because it's the trade-off is I can write about basketball from home, and spring football, you kind of got to go to the press conferences. And it's like that tends to be, I don't know. Talk to me then. What's the excitement around football versus spring football? Finishing us out in segment 2, the Rican Raider at Amstand 87. If Wink leaves after this year, do you think we'd reach out to the NFL again or promote? I think they'd promote from within. Also, almost home bar for the meetup. Be there, be square. Probably going to have to be square just because of time constraints. But yeah, that's that. All right, we've got plenty more coming up, and we're going to do so here. Looks like I've got the time. It's going to be a long one. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, the NBA is back, including your Detroit Pistons. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's finish out. We've got the Blue Crew here. We've got plenty. We're going to lightning round this a little bit. Empire asks, what do you open up the playbook for Bryce and the whole offense these next couple weeks, or do you keep it closed in preparation for Ohio State to probably only run the ball 40 plus times versus Ohio State? LOL. I think you try a couple things. You set things up, but you don't go like wild or anything. You set things up, and let's say you find something that's working. Think to 2021 Michigan versus Maryland. They set things up. Now, did they run the same game plan going nuts with Donovan Edwards in the pass game? They never did that again, which is stupid. But at the same time, like, Ohio State had to respect it. So you set some things up. Like, so you might open up the playbook to look a little different and give them something to think about. But I wouldn't like open it up in like terms of like, hey, we're going to run this, but you do things to set things up, I'd say. Chad Holbrook at Chad Holbrook 10. Is there any chance we see the playbook opened up more in the next couple of weeks? OSU is going to be put belt to what if we can't throw. Here's the thing. You don't need to open it up. Like, you just need to win these next couple games. Like, do you want to get comfortable in the passing game? Absolutely. Do you need to absolutely become this air raid team in order to and also how did Michigan beat Ohio State last year? Was it by opening things up? No. I think the most important thing is winning. And the second most important thing is the team feeling confident going into that game. Those are the two most important things. It's less to do with anything else. Not football related, but has anyone heard any news about Mike Hart? Would love to know he's good. I did talk to someone about 2 weeks ago who has talked to him regularly, and they said he's doing really good. So there you go. Michigander at Michigander 1426. Why can't the passing game ever be on the same page? Early in the season, Bryce was stepping up in the pocket and looking confident when his wide receivers weren't catching the ball. And now they're catching the ball has been mildly fixed. Well, Andrew Marsh, it has been. And Channing Goodwin didn't drop the ball when it was thrown his way, but I wouldn't say it's been fixed. They're still dropping the ball. Donovan McCulley has not looked great. Bryce is escaping the pocket early when he feels a hint of pressure and has just been inaccurate lately. I mean, part of it is defensive game planning. Purdue often sent 6. That's kind of new. We haven't seen that happen. It destabilized Bryce. We'll see if they have a counter to that if Northwestern or any other team decides to follow suit. So that's it, right? Like, teams are going to say, hey, we're going to do this to try to disrupt things. And that's what Purdue did against Michigan State. Again, no, it didn't look great from the second quarter onward in the passing game. But it was really just the second quarter, because in the third and fourth quarter, Michigan did not try to pass the ball. Didn't try. That's what I tried to get people to understand. People got mad at me, but they didn't try to pass the ball. It wasn't like we tried to pass the ball and it wasn't working, but the run game was. They didn't try to pass the ball in the second half against MSU. C. Henry, will we see more Jasper Parker down the stretch? I'd imagine so. Can we expect more production from a third wide receiver or one of the tight ends? Hopefully they get Hogan. If they get Hogan Hansen back, that'd be great. I'd love to see more Zach Marshall personally. We need another throw outside or Marsh or McCulley in the passing game. I agree with that. Jackson Carmoni at MGO Jax. What do you expect of our offensive game plan to be on Saturday? Pound the rock or a little more balanced? I would hope it's balanced, but I still wouldn't mind too much if they ran the ball. But I'd like to see more balance. That's personally. Conman34 asks, would it be wrong for Sherrone to listen to Connor's podcast and apply it? As a Connor Stallions adherent, and it being my show, no, I think it'd be within reason. Ian Westbrook asks, are you worried at all about this gimmick game in a baseball stadium? Weird things usually happen in these types of games. No, I think football's football. RNR 91, what are the offensive and defensive game plans to beat OSU? Like any of us know, we don't. And if I did know, would I just tell you on a podcast? No. Hutch Season asks, do we think we need a new quarterback coach for Bryce to properly develop, or is his regression this season just true freshman moments? I'd like to see it. Yes, I think it would be good to have a quarterback coach, but I don't think that's necessarily why he's not where you hope he could be at this point. I think I think that the offensive line's been intermittent, despite what was said earlier. I think that the wide receivers haven't helped him out. I think that he's had some freshman moments as well. I think part of that's been defensive game plans, so on and so forth. Josh Lilly at Josh C. Lilly 8 rather. He's got 3. Who are you more worried about, Northwestern or Maryland? I wouldn't say I'm more worried about one or the other. Northwestern's a tougher team. Maryland is on a 5-game losing streak, but that's the week before the game. So refer back to my podcast talking about those ones as it is. Is the game plan against Ohio State to unleash Underwood's running game? I don't know. Maybe. How much is Michigan holding back for OSU? You'd have to imagine a lot. But when that doesn't mean like a bunch of trick plays, it just might mean like things that you don't recognize, right? Like, oh, they ran out of this formation. It looked like this in previous games, and they did something different this time, right? It doesn't have to be flashy. I would imagine they're holding back quite a bit, right? They prepare for Ohio State every day. Sean Kelty, with what is happening in the Big Ten capital deal, do you see Michigan eventually bending the knee and signing, or do you think that along with USC, they will leave the Big Ten and go independent or to the ACC, SEC? I think the latter. I have a text out. Let me double check. Phone's been ringing here. But nope, don't have a response yet. Asking if there's veracity to that report. We'll find out potentially. I'd rather see Michigan go independent than be a part of this sale, essentially. Lewis Blake, what would the Ohio State fan base do if they missed the playoffs 3 years in a row? Don't know, don't care. Brian Salo, I know home road Bryce are different, but after the last home game performance, could Bryce maybe have some issues seeing at night, maybe astigmatism, maybe looking for an excuse, maybe. I don't know. He didn't have that problem against New Mexico. I just think he's trying to do too much. I think that's a big thing. I think to some degree he was trying to play hero ball and it wasn't working, right? Escaping the pocket, thinking like, oh, I can just, and it just didn't work. So I think just settling him down, right? It's a bad game. He hasn't had a bad season. It's just a bad game. Don't overreact to a bad game. Everyone has one at one point in time. JJ McCarthy had bad games. Just Michigan often won them. All right. Nathan Troop at ntroop7. Offensively, how can we get the pass game to improve? First thought is to involve the tight ends more, but curious what your and Connor's thoughts are. Beyond what I've already said, I think just making it easy. Again, another thing Michigan hasn't really done lately, and we talked about this, Connor and I did last week, they didn't really, like the boot game, Connor is insistent it's the best boot game in the country. They didn't really try to run a heck of a lot of bootlegs last 2 games for the most part. So there's that. But like, I don't know, just make it easy for Bryce, right? But we'll see. Just see what it looks like. At the American GK, we see more of a playbook opened up, especially through the air against Northwestern. It's already been asked and answered. And finishing us out, McGriffin at JGriffy 2020. What can we expect to change from last week and help us feel better about this team? I mean, just like I'm beating a dead horse. The whole show, consistency. Have it look more consistent. And I think part of that plays in the defense. Like if the defense played the way it has the last 3 weeks against USC with the offense that was happening against USC, I understand they didn't finish as much, but the offense moved the ball the same way it kind of has every game. Last week included, or 2 weeks ago included. Just the past game wasn't the main culprit there. I think everyone would be feeling a lot better. Just everything needs to be a little more consistent. Defense, play up to what you've been able to do. Offense, play up to what you've been able to do. There's going to be some ruts here and there. If they can find a way to score more points in terms of like, hey, we're driving the field, we're getting 450 yards a game. I think that's it. What does Michigan rank in terms of overall yards per game offensively? They're getting 409.4 yards per game, but they're only coming up with scoring offense here. 28.1 points per game and some heavy lifting from that Central Michigan game. So you just got to figure out how to be better in terms of that number. Make it look more like a 35. And I think everyone would be pretty hunky-dory about that. We'll see. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will have Jack Tuttle on. We're going to do another Q&A per his request tomorrow. So we will talk to you again soon. Peace.